The Hanging Tree by me, Erica L. Drayton. The sounds of a party were evident to any passers-by along the dirt road, the only discernible path to Parker Manor, the scattered cobblestones strewn about the ground. As Savannah neared the house, she stumbled on a stone, nearly losing her balance and falling to the ground. As she became distracted, looking up at the nearly dead tree situated in front of the house where the noose still hung. Seeing it brought back memories for her that she was trying to forget, but she squared her shoulders, turned away from the menacing tree, and continued walking towards the house. The sun was just beginning to fall from the sky, shining brightly on her caramel-colored skin, casting a long shadow that reached the front porch before she did. She hesitated at the foot of the front porch steps and took one more look back at the tree, at the noose, and looking up to the sky that was now beginning to show signs of an incoming storm, she took a deep breath as she ascended the 2 steps of the porch. A loud creaking noise was made upon each step she took as she walked towards the front door. She kept looking down, expecting she would fall through the floorboards at any moment, but she didn't. The front door was slightly ajar, and Savannah could see people walking around, as well as hear the sounds of laughter and old music that could only be coming from a record player, emanating from within. She peeked one eye through the small gap in the door, then quickly stepped to the side when she saw Bobby come into view. Her breathing quickened with fear at what she was about to do, but she catch Okay, I'm reading it in past tense, but I wrote it in present tense. I'm gonna read it in present tense. I'm sorry. Her breathing quickens with fear at what she is about to do, but she catches her breath and closes her eyes tightly, saying a little prayer to herself of assurance that this is the right thing, the only way. She knows she could easily have written a letter or at least waited till the party was over, but Bobby isn't the only person she's here to see. After what feels like an eternity of leaning up against the wall of the house, she rights herself quickly when a couple of women, laughing hysterically, come bursting out of the front door. They stumble drunkenly down the 2 front porch steps, not noticing Savannah at all. Hey, ladies, come back here. You're too drunk to drive, Alexander shouted to the 2 girls who were already several feet down the gravel-stone path, headed towards their car parked at the end of the road. He notices someone moving to his left and turns to see what it is. Holy shit, he screams, stumbling back past the front door until his back collides with the wooden front porch railing. The 2 girls hear him scream, so they stop dead in their tracks to see what has him so spooked. When they see her, they are equally mortified and frozen in place. She realizes there's no turning back now. What she came here to do must be done. She squares her shoulders again, grips the gift wrap box in both her hands, and walks straight into the front door with Alexander and the 2 girls following her inside, but at a safe distance. As she crosses the foyer and stops in the center of the living room, she feels almost transported back to high school. Nothing in the house she only saw the inside of once has changed. The only real difference is everyone there is now 15 years older. Someone standing by the record player lifts the needle upon seeing Savannah enter the house, causing the room to be completely silent. Bobby Binks, the birthday boy, emerges from the kitchen gripping with his fingers 4 ice-cold beers. Okay, who said they wanted a beer? He realizes the room is eerily silent. Hey, Mark, put the music back on, man. Bobby says as he starts walking towards Mark, who's gesturing with his eyes towards where Savannah is still standing, glued to her spot. Bobby turns to the front door and sees her. He instantly drops all 4 bottles of beer to the hardwood floor and they shatter upon impact. Everyone but Savannah flinches. Savannah begins to say but is cut off. What did you call me? You come into my house uninvited and think you can just call me what all my friends call me? Get out, he shouts angrily, although everyone can't help but notice that he's taken several steps back from her since he started getting angry. Robert, I'm not here to argue or cause a scene. Too late for that. Why are you here? What do you want? He asks her, still backing away from her, looking around for a quick exit in case the need should arise. I wanted to wish you a happy birthday and bring you this gift, which I hoped would give me an opportunity to apologize to you. To all of you, really, she says, looking around the room at all the terrified faces. Was it something I said? Listen, Savannah, you need to leave now. Bobby signals to a few of his guy friends who are at the party to join him in kicking Savannah out. Three of them step forward and flank Bobby as he finally finds the confidence to walk towards her. The posse, headed right in her direction, causes her to step back so far she finds herself back where she started, on the front porch of the house. Wait, guys, listen, I'm not here to start any trouble. Tell that to the noose hanging from that tree right there, Bobby says, pointing to the completely dead tree just a few feet away from them. His three friends move past him towards her, making like they are going to grab her, but before they reach her, she walks backwards down the two front porch steps, reaching behind her back and pulling out a handgun, pointing it at everyone on the front porch. I didn't want to have to do this, Bobby, but I need to do this, you see? And you left me no choice. So let's all walk back inside and just talk for a little while. Then I promise I'll leave and none of you will ever see me again, she says, pointing her gun very steady and still, waiting for everyone who is now gathered outside on the front porch to move, but no one is budging. She points the gun up in the air and fires off one round, making everyone flinch and rush back inside the house. Everyone except Bobby, who is so stunned and scared he is glued to one spot. Bobby, she screams, causing him to jolt back to reality, looking past the barrel of the gun and directly at her. Inside, please. She motions for him to go inside with the hand holding the gun. He turns slowly and walks back inside, his stride a bit unsteady. Just before she enters the house, Savannah turns and looks at the tree with the noose, smiles wickedly, then closes the front door behind her. Everyone is huddled in the furthest corner of the room away from her, whispering to each other, probably trying to come up with an escape plan. Bobby is standing alone in the middle of the living room floor, staring at Savannah, who is still holding up the gun in one hand and the birthday present she brought with her in the other. Hey, all of you in the corner, break it up. Scatter now or Bobby here gets one in the head, she says, keeping her eyes fixed on Bobby, smiling menacingly as she winks at him. What do you want, freak? Someone from the party shouts out loud. Who said that? Savannah asks, circling around Bobby, pointing her gun one at a time at everyone. Who the fuck said that? Hey, Savannah, Bobby whispers to her as she frantically turns the gun on him again. She still looking wildly at everyone who have now spread out in the room. She is quickly realizing that may not have been the best thing to tell them to do. Hey, over here, Savannah, talk to me. Don't worry about them. Tell me what you want. Why are you here? How did you even know we'd be here? Everyone get back together. I can't focus with you spread out like that. Did I tell you to spread out like that? Are you trying to confuse me? As she's becoming erratic and unsure of what she wants, Bobby signals to his friends with his eyes, trying to convey he wants to take her down, but they shake their heads at him. He's alone in figuring out a way to get out of this situation. Savannah. Hey, Savannah, Bobby speaks calmly, snapping his fingers in her direction again, careful not to set her off. She turns her attention away from the small group of friends back to Bobby, still pointing her gun in their direction. Just tell me what you want and we can all get back to normal, okay? Normal? You want to get back to normal? How can you get back to normal after what I did to you? Um, Insert mean nickname for Bobby. Yeah, I need to come up with one of those. She says in the same mocking voice she would use back when they were in high school. Bobby flinches as his heart quickens and he's taken back in his mind to one of the worst days of his life. It was his 16th birthday, and unfortunately for him, his parents thought it would be a good idea to invite his entire class to their house for a party. Little did they know they would also be inviting Savannah, his biggest and scariest bully. She never wasted an opportunity to tease and torture him, and just because it happened to be his 16th birthday didn't mean she would give her antics a rest and let him enjoy this one day. In fact, she felt she needed to do something even worse than her usual cruel games. She had heard that Bobby's home was at one time used to house slaves, and she thought it would be funny to make the school believe he still practiced and believed in those heinous practices. During his birthday party, Savannah talks Bobby, who won't admit it to himself at the time, but had a huge crush on her at the time, into going outside with her to talk. He agreed, thinking he was finally going to get lucky with her after she had been playing so hard to get for so long. He remembers telling his friends to keep everyone busy and away from the front of the house, where she wanted him to meet her in exactly 10 minutes. When he is able to sneak away and gets to the front porch, she is nowhere to be found. Looking out towards the path leading down the road, he notices she's up on the bench under his favorite tree, climbing it the way he used to when he was a kid not too long ago. Hey, what do you think you're doing? He asks, whispering loudly to her as he makes his way towards the tree. He stops just a few feet from the tree when he sees, dangling from her neck, a rope tied into a noose. Bobby, so glad you could make it. You're just in time for your birthday present, she grunted down to him as she started to crawl out onto a limb that at the time was strong enough to carry her weight. God damn it, Savannah, get the fuck down from there before you break your neck. Bobby walks up to the tree and stands just below the limb she is currently balancing herself on. She bends over on her hands and knees and begins to tie the other end of the rope dangling from her neck around the tree, pulling it tightly every so often to check that it's not going to come loose. What did you think was going to happen between us when you came out here? Telling all your boys to distract everyone. Did you think you were going to get into in my panties, Bobby? She asked. Whoa, she says, suddenly gripping onto the limb tighter with both her hands as she almost fell over. Savannah, I swear, if you don't get down from there, what? You're gonna what? Push me off and be done with me? That's what you want, isn't it? You want to hang me, don't you, Bobby? I wonder how many of your people have hung my people from this very limb, she asked, sitting on the limb next to the knot she just tied, her feet dangling down close to where Bobby is standing, but just out of his reach. None, you psycho bitch. This tree was planted when I was born by my father, who was hoping to build me a tree house when I got older, he said as he jumped up, trying to grab her legs to get her down off the limb. Oh, you want me to come down, do ya? Yes, for fuck's sake, before someone sees you. Shit, Savannah. What goes on in that fucked up mind of yours anyway? Suddenly, her happy go lucky attitude while up in the tree changes. Her eyes grow cold and black. Her eyes were something Bobby would see for many years to come in his nightmares. She looked down at him and smiled the most menacing smile he'd ever seen as she began to sing happy birthday to him in a breathy voice, almost mimicking the way Marilyn Monroe sang it to President Kennedy. Bobby felt a cold chill crawl up his spine at that moment. I'm not going to say it the way Marilyn Monroe says it. Happy birthday to you. And as she sang those final words, she leaned her entire body forward, allowing herself to fall off the limb down towards Bobby, who instinctively raised his arms to try and catch her before her neck would snap from gravity taking its course. He grabbed her around the ankles, trying with all his might to prevent her body from falling any lower as he could hear her making gurgling sounds high above his head. Help! He tried unsuccessfully to shout towards the house, currently filled with all his friends from school having a good time, listening to loud music. Suddenly, the friends he had asked to keep everyone away from the windows at the front of the house decided to take a peek for themselves and were stunned to see Bobby grabbing around Savannah's ankles as she was dangling from the tree outside by a noose. Everyone came running out of the house to see what was happening, and before Bobby knew it, he was being yanked away by his mother abruptly as his father cut down Savannah, who was still alive, and laid her down on the ground. Bobby couldn't hear what she was saying, but from the way she was clawing at her throat, where the rope was still around her neck, with one hand and pointing towards Bobby with the other, he knew his life was about to go from bad to worse. His parents never looked at him or treated him the same way again, even when he was sent away to finish high school at a military academy rather than face the shame of him and how the town might treat him if he stayed. Now, 10 years later, with 4 of those years spent in a military academy and another 3 on a tour, those old feelings of fear are creeping back into his mind. Beads of sweat break out on his forehead as his military training fights to take over from the frightened boy he was so long ago. Savannah, he says, a mysterious male voice standing in the doorway of the house. She suddenly turns towards it, the hand holding the gun shaking a little at the sound of the voice, as if she recognizes it. No, 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 no. What are you doing here? How did you find me? Go away. I have to apologize to Bobby, so you go away now, she says, beginning to whimper like a small child. Savannah, it's time to come back home, okay? We've been worried sick about you. Why didn't you tell us where you were going? You know you can't just leave like that, the mysterious voice says, walking further into the room until we see Dr. Young, a dashing gentleman of 42, in a suit and tie, sporting a brand new shave and haircut. Give me the gun, child. Where did you get it from, anyway? Dr. Young holds his hand out to her. He's not afraid and doesn't flinch. He fully expects her to comply with his request without any incident, like they've practiced time and time again. Slowly, her face contorts into frustration. Her instincts tell her to hand the gun over to Dr. Young, but her head thinks that would not be a good idea. She takes a step back away from Dr. Young as she thrusts the present she has been clutching all this time in Bobby's general direction. Take it, she says to him, but doesn't turn her gaze from Dr. Young, who is standing there, smiling at her softly, still holding his hand out to her for the gun. It's for him, okay? I'll go with you, but only if you let him keep his birthday present. Okay, Savannah, he can keep it. Now let's go home. You've had us all worried sick. Savannah turns her gaze towards Bobby, who has not moved a muscle. Take the box, Bobby. Don't you want to know what I gotcha? She asks him. He shakes his head no and won't take the box from her. Fine, she says with a smile and places it down in front of him. She had been clutching the box so tightly the wrapping paper has come loose and the lid of the box has opened slightly, almost revealing its contents. She then puts the gun down on the floor as well, and with an eerie giggle to no one in particular, she skips 2 steps to Dr. Young and takes his arm in hers. Are we going to see Mama today? Maybe, Savannah. You know, you haven't been such a good girl today, Dr. Young says. As the two of them walk out of the house and down the 2 front porch steps, Savannah turns one last time, and looking Bobby right in the eyes, she smiles and winks at him. I've been a good girl today, really. I want to see Mama. Savannah, walking alone down the road, argues with a figment of her imagination as a huge gust of wind kicks up dust and dirt around her. And if we follow this gust of wind as it travels back up the dirt path towards the house, past the old tree that no longer has leaves on it and no noose on it either, it makes its way up the 2 front porch steps and blows into the house that has been completely empty for over a decade and still is to this day, except for a box. The wind blows the lid open and we see the noose rolled up into a ball inside, where it will undoubtedly stay forever. The end.